Ethical perspectives on euthanasia. Euthanasia, the practice of intentionally ending a life to alleviate suffering, remains one of the most debated ethical issues. Its morality hinges on the value we place on life, autonomy, and suffering. This comprehensive analysis explores theories like the sanctity of life, quality of life, autonomy, and ethical frameworks like natural law and situation ethics. The sanctity of life is a conservative view deeply rooted in religious teachings, particularly within Christianity. It posits that life, being a divine creation, is inherently sacred. As a result, only God has the right to end it. This perspective draws from biblical references such as, "Thou shalt not murder," Exodus chapter 20 verse 13, asserting an absolute prohibition against taking life. "Your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. You do not belong to yourself," 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 19, indicating humans lack the moral authority to end their own lives. Genesis chapter 9 verse 6 highlights life's divine value by connecting it to being made in God's image. Catholic doctrine incorporates natural law to bolster this view, arguing that euthanasia violates the primary precept to preserve human life. The Catholic Church does, however, allow for passive euthanasia under the principle of double effect, where death is a foreseen but unintended consequence of pain relief. A weak sanctity of life view acknowledges the importance of life's sanctity but incorporates compassion. It argues that the Bible's emphasis on compassion could justify euthanasia in cases of extreme suffering. Critics, however, maintain that biblical injunctions against killing are absolute and cannot be overridden by compassion alone. This perspective assesses whether a life is worth living based on happiness, well-being, or the absence of suffering. Philosopher Peter Singer champions this view, advocating for euthanasia when a life lacks sufficient quality, such as in cases of severe disabilities or incurable conditions. He controversially supports non-voluntary euthanasia for infants or those in a persistent vegetative state, arguing they lack self-consciousness or preferences regarding life continuation. Singer's view distinguishes between humans as a species and persons, rational self-conscious beings. By this logic, euthanasia for individuals unable to express preferences does not deprive them of autonomy. Counterarguments. Archbishop Anthony Fisher warns of a slippery slope, where legalizing euthanasia for quality of life reasons could extend its use to vulnerable populations, such as the elderly or disabled, who might feel pressured into it. Examples from the Netherlands and Canada suggest instances where euthanasia may reflect societal neglect rather than true autonomy. Singer rebuts these concerns with data from Oregon, where euthanasia is predominantly chosen by educated individuals who are not socioeconomically vulnerable. He also notes that advancements in prenatal testing have reduced post-birth euthanasia in some regions. Autonomy emphasizes the right of individuals to make their own choices about their lives. It raises the question, should people have the freedom to decide when and how they die? Deontological autonomy. Philosopher Robert Nozick argues for absolute autonomy, suggesting individuals own their bodies and have the right to make life-ending decisions if they do not harm others. However, critics highlight the risks of hasty decisions, such as choosing euthanasia during temporary emotional distress. Consequentialist autonomy. Peter Singer, drawing on John Stuart Mill's liberal philosophy, takes a more moderated stance. He supports euthanasia only when a rational decision aligns with long-term well-being. For instance, a young person seeking euthanasia due to heartbreak would not qualify under Singer's criteria, as they are likely to recover and find value in life later. Challenges to autonomy. Archbishop Fisher raises concerns about the freedom to die, leading to moral incoherence, as it becomes difficult to restrict euthanasia once autonomy is granted. However, Singer suggests pairing autonomy with rationality, allowing euthanasia only when decisions are well considered and not driven by short-term emotions. Rooted in Thomas Aquinas' philosophy, natural law prioritizes preserving life as a fundamental moral principle. Violating this principle through euthanasia risks societal disorder and moral decay. Mother Teresa echoed this sentiment, suggesting that devaluing any human life endangers the social fabric. The Catholic Church permits passive euthanasia under double effect but opposes active euthanasia. Singer critiques this inconsistency, arguing that withdrawing treatment implies a quality-of-life judgment, contradicting the sanctity of life principle. Critics of natural law argue it reflects outdated socio-economic contexts, designed for less educated, chaotic societies needing strict rules. While this may no longer align with modern values, defenders maintain its eternal relevance, independent of societal trends. Joseph Fletcher's situation ethics rejects rigid biblical legalism, focusing instead on agape, selfless love as the guiding principle. Fletcher's view supports euthanasia when it maximizes love and minimizes suffering, such as in cases of terminal illness with no hope of recovery. Criticisms. Subjectivity. Critics argue that love is subjective and can justify morally dubious actions, as seen in Nazi euthanasia programs. Human imperfection. William Barclay warns that granting people the power to make life and death decisions risks selfishness and abuse. Fletcher counters that humanity's coming of age reflects increased maturity, allowing greater freedom in ethical decision-making. Active euthanasia involves deliberate actions to cause death, such as administering a lethal injection. Passive euthanasia entails withholding treatment or life support, allowing natural death. While the Catholic Church permits passive euthanasia under double effect, critics argue it is ethically indistinguishable from active euthanasia, especially when prolonging life imposes suffering. Voluntary euthanasia respects an individual's autonomy when they choose to end their life. Non-voluntary euthanasia occurs when individuals cannot express their wishes, such as in comas or cases involving infants with terminal conditions. Ethical dilemmas arise in determining who decides for the incapable. In Belgium, euthanasia is legal for severe, incurable mental illnesses, even for young adults. This raises questions about autonomy and whether mental illness undermines the capacity for rational decision-making. The UK High Court ruled against continuing treatment for Alfie Evans, a terminally ill infant, citing unnecessary suffering. This case exemplifies the tension between parental rights and societal obligations to prevent suffering. It highlights the ethical complexity of non-voluntary euthanasia in cases involving children. Should autonomy or the sanctity of life prevail in ethical deliberations? Can euthanasia be justified based on quality of life alone? Is there a moral distinction between active and passive euthanasia? Should society adapt its ethical principles to modern contexts, or do timeless values like sanctity of life still hold? Euthanasia reflects profound ethical tensions between respecting life's sanctity, alleviating suffering, and upholding autonomy. Each ethical framework, natural law, situation ethics, or quality of life, provides distinct insights but also grapples with limitations. The challenge lies in balancing these perspectives to craft compassionate, rational, and just policies for end-of-life care.